December 10, 2008. The world was already reeling from a financial crisis, but for two men, Mark and Andrew Madoff, their world was about to shatter completely. Their father, Bernie Madoff, a titan of finance, sat them down and uttered words that would echo across global markets. His entire investment business was nothing but a colossal lie. It wasn't just a failure, it was the largest Ponzi scheme in history, a staggering deception estimated to be worth $65 billion. This was the moment the elaborate facade, carefully constructed over nearly 30 years, finally crumbled, exposing a fraud of unimaginable scale. Before the confession, Bernard L. Madoff was a name synonymous with prestige and innovation on Wall Street. He founded Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities LLC in 1960, quickly establishing himself as a pioneer in electronic trading. He even served as chairman of the Nasdaq stock market, a position that lent immense credibility and an air of unimpeachable integrity. Madoff cultivated an image of an astute, conservative investor, a reliable hand in volatile markets. This meticulously crafted public persona was not merely an accessory, it was the foundation upon which his monumental deception was built. Madoff's investment advisory business operated under a veil of exclusivity. He didn't advertise, investors were often introduced through word of mouth, creating a sense of privileged access to a secret, highly effective strategy. He claimed to employ a split-strike conversion strategy involving options in blue-chip stocks. While complex sounding, this opaque description served primarily to deter questions and shield the simple truth. The strategy was presented as proprietary, too sophisticated for outsiders to fully grasp, further enhancing its mystique and reinforcing the trust placed in Madoff himself. The primary draw for Madoff's investors was the promise of remarkably consistent, high returns. While typical market investments experienced fluctuations, even downturns, Madoff's clients consistently received 10 to 12% annual returns, year after year, regardless of market performance. In a world defined by volatility, Madoff offered an oasis of stability. This steady, above-market performance wasn't a sign of genius, it was the clearest red flag. But for decades, the allure of consistent profits outweighed skepticism, cementing Madoff's reputation and attracting an ever-growing pool of new money. At its heart, Madoff's scheme was a classic Ponzi, a simple yet devastatingly effective fraud named after Charles Ponzi. He promised extraordinary returns to investors, but instead of generating those profits through legitimate means, he paid off earlier investors using the capital from newer investors. The entire system relied on a constant inflow of fresh money to sustain the illusion. As long as new investors joined, the scheme could continue, expanding its reach and deepening its deception. It was a house of cards, inherently unstable, destined to collapse once the supply of new money dwindled. Madoff rarely interacted directly with all his investors. A crucial part of his expansion involved feeder funds. These were investment vehicles, often managed by reputable financial institutions, that collected money from clients and then, unbeknownst to many of those clients, channeled it directly into Madoff's fraudulent fund. Names like Fairfield Sentry became massive conduits, bringing in billions. The existence of these feeder funds added a layer of legitimacy and perceived due diligence, making it even harder for individual investors to question the underlying scheme. They unknowingly amplified Madoff's reach and the scale of his fraud. Perhaps one of the most damning aspects of the Madoff saga is the repeated failure of regulators to detect the fraud. For years, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, received credible warnings about Madoff's suspicious operations. As early as 1999, financial analyst Harry Markopolos began alerting the SEC, providing detailed evidence that Madoff's reported returns were mathematically impossible. Yet, despite multiple investigations and numerous red flags, the SEC consistently failed to uncover the truth, dismissing the warnings as baseless or conducting only superficial reviews that Madoff easily circumvented. Harry Markopolos, a forensic accountant and financial fraud investigator, stands as the central figure in the story of ignored warnings. After analyzing Madoff's returns and investment strategy, Markopolos famously concluded within minutes that it had to be a fraud. He spent years trying to expose Madoff, submitting detailed reports to the SEC, highlighting the mathematical impossibilities and operational inconsistencies. His 2005 submission, titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud," laid out 29 specific indicators of fraud. Yet, his pleas were tragically overlooked, earning him the moniker of a modern-day Cassandra. Madoff's ability to evade detection wasn't just due to SEC incompetence, it was also a testament to his cunning. When regulators did investigate, Madoff orchestrated superficial tours of his legitimate market-making operation, effectively diverting attention from his fraudulent investment advisory business, which was housed on a separate floor. He consistently provided fabricated trading statements and other documents, creating a convincing illusion of a legitimate, active portfolio. The lack of deep, forensic audits by the SEC allowed Madoff's meticulously crafted deception to persist for decades, leaving his victims increasingly vulnerable. Why did so many sophisticated investors, financial institutions, and even charities fall victim to Madoff? Beyond the consistent returns, Madoff expertly leveraged human psychology. His charisma, his reputation, and the exclusivity of his fund created an aura of unshakable trust. People wanted to believe in the steady returns, ignoring their instincts or red flags. Social proof played a role. If prominent figures and institutions were investing, it must be legitimate. The desire for easy money, coupled with a fundamental trust in a pillar of Wall Street, blinded many to the obvious signs of a meticulously designed fraud. Madoff's firm, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities LLC, was not entirely fraudulent. It had a legitimate market-making and proprietary trading division, operating on one floor of his Manhattan office. This real business provided a convincing cover. However, on another floor, completely segregated, was the investment advisory business, the heart of the Ponzi scheme. This physical separation and the existence of a real, successful business allowed Madoff to deflect attention, present a picture of legitimacy to regulators, and ensure that even his own employees in the legitimate division remained largely unaware of the fraud unfolding just floors away. To maintain the illusion, Madoff's operation painstakingly fabricated monthly statements, confirmations, and other documents for investors. These documents showed fictitious trades, often involving options and blue-chip stocks, that never actually occurred. These were sophisticated forgeries, designed to withstand casual scrutiny. The detailed reports, sent directly to investors, provided tangible proof of their consistent gains. This administrative deception was critical. It convinced investors their money was actively being managed and generating profits, rather than simply being siphoned off to pay earlier clients. The global financial crisis of 2008 proved to be the undoing of Madoff's meticulously constructed house of cards. As markets plummeted and liquidity dried up, investors worldwide panicked, initiating a wave of redemption requests from Madoff's fund. People needed their money back, but Madoff didn't have it. The constant inflow of new money, vital for any Ponzi scheme, began to dwindle as economic uncertainty gripped the globe. With more money flowing out than coming in, the scheme became unsustainable. The crisis, far from being just an economic downturn, became the ultimate stress test that exposed Madoff's decades-long deception. Facing an estimated $7 billion in redemption requests he couldn't possibly fulfill, Bernie Madoff knew his time was up. On December 10, 2008, he called his sons, Mark and Andrew, into his office. He confessed everything. It's all one big lie. He revealed that his investment advisory business was a gigantic Ponzi scheme and that he was finished. His sons, who worked in the legitimate market-making division, were reportedly stunned. They quickly informed their family lawyer, who then contacted federal authorities. This act of reporting marked the official end of Madoff's reign of deception. Bernie Madoff was arrested on December 11, 2008, the day after his confession. He initially claimed to have acted alone. On March 12, 2009, he pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He offered no clear explanation for his crimes beyond a vague sense of shame. On June 29, 2009, Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in federal prison, the maximum allowable sentence, and ordered to forfeit $170 billion. He died in prison in April 2021, taking many of his secrets to his grave, but leaving behind a devastating legacy of betrayal. The impact of Madoff's fraud was catastrophic, far beyond the staggering $65 billion figure. Thousands of individuals, families, charities, and institutions lost their life savings, their retirement funds, and their philanthropic endowments. People committed suicide, homes were lost, and dreams were shattered. The human cost extended globally, affecting victims from New York to Palm Beach, and from Europe to Asia. The fraud did not discriminate, impacting celebrities, small investors, and major financial players alike, leaving a trail of financial devastation and profound emotional trauma in its wake. The Madoff scandal offers invaluable lessons for spotting financial fraud. The red flags were there, for those willing to see them. First, be wary of unusually consistent returns, especially if they are high and immune to market downturns. Second, demand transparency. Legitimate investments should provide clear, verifiable information. Third, be cautious of opaque or proprietary strategies that are difficult to understand. Fourth, if an investment insists on exclusivity or puts pressure on you to invest quickly, it's a warning. Finally, check that account statements come from an independent, third-party custodian, not directly from the fund manager. The Madoff case underscores the critical importance of investor due diligence. Never rely solely on reputation or word of mouth, even for seemingly credible figures. Always verify licenses, registrations, and regulatory history. Ask tough questions about investment strategies, fees, and how funds are held and reconciled. Diversify your investments and never put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how appealing the returns seem. Ultimately, the responsibility to protect your investments rests with you. Skepticism, independent verification, and common sense are your best defenses against financial fraud. In the wake of Madoff, the SEC faced intense scrutiny and implemented reforms aimed at improving oversight and fraud detection. These included better whistleblower programs, enhanced due diligence requirements for investment advisors, and more rigorous examination procedures. However, the financial landscape continues to evolve, presenting new challenges for regulators. The sheer volume and complexity of global finance make it difficult to catch every bad actor. Madoff's legacy serves as a constant reminder that while regulations can improve, eternal vigilance from both authorities and individual investors remains the most potent weapon against financial deception. Bernie Madoff's story is more than just a tale of greed and deception. It's a stark warning about the vulnerabilities in our financial systems and the enduring power of human psychology. It highlights how a charismatic individual can exploit trust, how regulators can fail, and how the promise of easy money can blind even sophisticated investors. The $65 billion loss is a staggering number, but the true cost lies in the shattered lives and lost faith. Madoff's legacy is a permanent reminder: if an investment opportunity seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is. The lessons from his fraud are timeless, and vigilance is paramount.